Hello, welcome to the Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 5 Concept and Theories of Structure. And our topic is Social Structure is a Model, Contributions of Clade, Levi-Strauss and Edmund Leach. Perhaps the most provocative and debatable contribution to the concept of social structure was that of the clade Levi-Strauss, the French structuralist who is famous for his ingenious cross-cultural analysis of myth and kinship systems. If for functionalism, society is a kind of living creature consisting of parts which can be dissected and distinguished from structuralism, it is the analogy of the language that helps us in conceptualizing society. For the study of a given piece of language, the linguistic tries to arrive at its grammar, the underlying rules which make an expression meaningful, although the speakers of that language may not know about it. Similarly, the structuralist from a given piece of social behavior tries to infer its underlying structure. In structuralism, the shift is from observable behavior to structure, from organic analogy to language. Further, structuralism submits that the set of relations between different parts can be transformed into something that appears to be different from what it was earlier. It is the idea of transformation of one into another that lies at the core of structuralism rather than the quality of relations. Edmund Leach has given a good example to illustrate this. A piece of music can be transformed into a variety of ways. It is written down, played on a piano, recorded on a phonographic record, transmitted over the radio, and finally played back to the audience. In each case, the piece of music passes through a whole series of transformations. It appears as printed notes, as a pattern of finger movements, as sound waves, as modulations of the grooves on a piece of bakelite, as electromagnetic vibrations, and so on. But what is common to all these manifestations of the music? One different from the other, and each conditioned by its own rules, is their structure. In a similar fashion, while different societies vary, what remains invariant to them is their structure. Levi-Strauss aptly showed that this in one of his studies, where he compared the totemic society of the Australian Aborigines with Indian caste system, and found that the both of them had the same structure. If for Radcliffe-Brown structure is observable, for Levi-Strauss it is an abstract concept. If for Radcliffe-Brown what persists is the structure of a particular society at a particular point of time and place, for Levi-Strauss what persists is the structure of the entire human society. In his celebrated essay of 1953 in A.L. Kroeber's Anthropology Today, titled Social Structure, Levi-Strauss says that social structure is not a field of study. It is not a province of inquiry. We do not study social structure, but it is an explanatory method and can be used in any kind of social studies. In opposition to Radcliffe Brown, Levi-Strauss says that the term social structure has nothing to do with empirical reality. It refers to the models that are built up from empirical reality. He writes, the object of social structure studies is to understand social relations with the help of models. Social structure is a model, it is a method of study. Here, Levi-Strauss distinguishes the concept of social structure from that of social relations. The latter are the raw data of social experience. They are the relation between the people, empirical and observable. It is from social relations that models comprising the social structures are built. Although the models are built from raw empirical reality, they cannot be reduced to it. The ensemble of social relations in a given society can be described, but social structure is an anthropologist's construction built for the purpose of the analysis. Levi-Strauss makes three distinctions. First, between the observation and the experimentation on models. Second, the conscious and unconscious character of the model. And the third, between the mechanical and the statistical models. The observation of social relations and the construction of models are these facts need to be distinguished from the experiments on models. By experimentation, Levi-Strauss means the controlled comparison of models of the same or of a different kind, with an intention to identify the model that accounts best for the observed facts. In a structural analysis, the first step is to observe the fact without any bias, then to describe them in the relationship to themselves and in relation to the whole. From these models are constructed, and in the final analysis the best model is chosen. This distinction is with reference to the anthropologist who studies society. By comparison, the distinction between the conscious and unconscious models is made with reference to the society under study. Conscious models, also known as homemade model, and norms are the insider's model. They are those according to which the society views itself. Underneath these models are deeper structures, the unconscious models which the society does not perceive directly or consciously. Anthropologists principally work with the models that they construct from the deeper lying phenomena rather than with conscious models. It is because Levi-Strauss says the aim of conscious model is to perpetuate the phenomena and not to explain it. But from this we should not infer that the conscious model could be dismissed. For in some cases they are far more accurate than those that anthropologists build. Even when conscious models are inaccurate, they guide us to deeper structures. Let us now come to the last distinction. The classic formulation of mechanical model is that they are those models which lie on the same scale as the phenomena is. And when the model and the phenomena lie on a different scale, they are called statistical model. Unfortunately, as critics have noted, Levi-Strauss does not explain the meaning of the same scale, but from the example he has given, it seems that he is concerned with the quantitative differences between what people say and what they do. To make it clear, Levi-Strauss gives the example of the laws of marriage. When there is no difference between the marriage rules and social grouping, the two are placed on the same scale. The model formed will be mechanical, and when several factors affect the type of marriage and people have no option but to deviate from the rule, the model formed will be statistical. Leach has formulated a conception of social structure that is essentially the same as Levi-Strauss. Like Levi-Strauss, Leach divides the social universe into different epistemological categories: the raw data of the social experience, that is, social relations, and the models that are built from it. Models are not empirical, they are the logical constructions in the mind of the anthropologist. Like Levi-Strauss, Leach also arrives at the distinction between the mechanical and statistical models, that is, the models built respectively on what people say and what people do. But he calls mechanical models jural rules and statistical models statistical norms. The meaning Leach gives to jural rules and the statistical norm is essentially the same which Levi-Strauss gives to mechanical and statistical models. But two important differences stand out. First, for Levi-Strauss, both mechanical and statistical models are of roughly equal analytical value and they complement each other. For Leach, jural rules and statistical norms should be treated as separate frames of reference. In an analysis, the statistical norms should have priority over the jural rules. We should begin our study with the actual behavior of people, the deviations that occur, and the conformity they achieve. Second, Leach points out that the mechanical models or the jural rules are qualitative rules of behavior. Sanctions support them and they have the power to coercion. Statistical model or norms are only statistical average of individual behavior. They do not have any coercive power. Now let us conclude the unit. The concept of social structure has been a pleasant puzzle. To remember the words of A.L. Kroeber, to which at one time almost every anthropologist and sociologist tried to make a contribution, either by drawing attention to the part of society that seemed important to the author or by lending support to any already existing idea or theory of social structure. As noted in the beginning, the debate concerning social structure has centered around two issues. First, the among which parts of the society are there structural relations, and the second is social structure real or a model which investigator constructs. Of the two major opinions on social structure, Levi-Strauss is closely connected to his method of structuralism. Social structure is a model devised for undertaking the study of social behavior. For Radcliffe Brown, social structure is an empirical entity constituting the subject matter of social anthropology and sociology. In his letter to Levi-Strauss, Radcliffe Brown expressed his disagreement with the former's concept of social structure and the confusion clouding the idea of social structure as a model. Radcliffe Brown also thought that what meant by the term social structural type was that what Levi-Strauss' term model implied. A concept of social structure that the Australian anthropologist S.F. Nadel proposes tries to combine the views of both Radcliffe Brown and Levi-Strauss. In his posthumously published The Theory of Social Structure, Nadel disagreed with Radcliffe Brown's idea that the social structure is an observable entity, but an abstraction from it. At the same time, he rejects Levi-Strauss' view that the social structure has nothing to do with empirical reality. From Radcliffe Brown, he borrows the idea that each person occupies a position in the social structure, but from an empirical level of interpersonal interaction, he moves to a level of abstraction where the person becomes an actor who plays a role with respect to the others. This abstraction, however, does not imply that it loses touch with the reality. Nadel writes, I consider social structure of whatever degree of refinement to be still the social reality itself, or an aspect of it, not the logic behind it. For Nadel, the components of social structure are roles, and the patterns of interconnected roles constitutes the social structure of a society. His definition of social structure is as follows. We arrive at structure of a society through abstracting from the concrete population and its behavior, the pattern or network of relationships obtaining between actors in their capacity of playing roles relative to one another. Besides Nadel, some other sociologists have also emphasized the importance of roles in defining social structure. Parsons, for example, says that the structure of a social system is defined with respect to the institutionalized patterns of normative culture. Norms vary according to first the position of actor in interactive situations, and second the type of activity. Norms define roles with the corresponding rules of behavior, and they also constitute the institutions. The aim of social structure is to regulate human behavior. In his conception of social structure, Peter Bow also speaks of the social positions among which a population is distributed. Some of these concepts of social structure have been put to test in empirical situations. For instance, Blau and Square applied Blau's ideas to understand real life. Now let us wind up the session and take rest, and we have come to the end of the unit. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the self-learning podcast.